the night before Thanksgiving in Denver. I closed an $18 million deal. Then I saw my sick family toasting in Santorini. 5 minutes later, Nevada Highway Patrol called. The coupe my sister borrowed was totaled by a drunk driver. As their cards kept swiping, I opened my ledger. At 6 p.m. Thanksgiving, I sent the email and froze the credit lines. Their $15,000 dinner bill froze right on the table. The payback began. My name is Heavenly Klein. I am 32 years old, and I am a senior financial analyst at Oak and Bramble Advisory. My world is one of precision. It exists in the quiet, pressurized hum of a downtown Denver high-rise long after the sun has set, illuminated only by the antiseptic blue light of my monitors. On this night, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the light felt colder than usual. It cut sharp lines across my desk, catching the exhaustion etched beside my mouth, but also the focus in my eyes. I had been at this desk for 14 hours. The final validation of an $18 million acquisition was not just a task, it was a fortress. Inside the numbers, everything made sense. Risk was quantifiable. Outcomes could be modeled. An automated email popped up in the corner of my screen, a garish splash of digital confetti. Congratulations, Heavenly, top 5% performer, Q4. I clicked it closed without reading the rest. The praise was hollow. It was just a digital receipt for the hours of my life I had exchanged for this quiet, empty room. I leaned back, the leather of my chair groaning in the silence. I should have been packing. I should have been arguing with my mother about whether the turkey was thawing fast enough. But Thanksgiving was canceled. 2 days ago, my mother, Evelyn, had called. Her voice was a theatrical performance of congestion. Heavenly, darling, it is just dreadful, she had rasped. Your father is coughing like he is trying to expel a lung. And Lila, poor thing, she sounds like a dying seal. We are all just horribly, horribly sick. I had felt the familiar, dull prick of disappointment. I had already requested the 2 days off. I can come over, I offered, my eyes still on my screen. I can bring soup, groceries, whatever you need. No! The speed of her refusal was sharp. Absolutely not. We are locking the place down. It is one of those awful new flu strains. We cannot risk getting you sick. Honey, not with your job. We will just have to do Christmas. A huge one, I promise. You just focus on work. We know you are busy. I was always busy. It was my defined role in the family ecosystem. I was the provider, the fixer, the one who was too busy for vacations, too busy for drama, too busy to be included. I was the load-bearing wall, and they had just assured me the house was empty. Feel better, I had said, hanging up. I will send a delivery. Now, in the sterile silence of the office, I closed the acquisition file. The deal was done. My bonus was secured. I picked up my personal phone, the screen dark. My thumb swiped out of pure muscle memory, a reflex for color, for a different kind of data. Instagram. It took a second to load. A new story, posted just 10 minutes ago, not from my sister. Lila. Her feed was a relentless barrage of curated brunches and borrowed outfits. This one was from my mother. I tapped it. The image resolved. My mother, Evelyn, my father, Martin, my sister, Lila. They were not in quarantine. They were not sick. They were outdoors. At a restaurant table perched on a cliff. They were all deeply, beautifully tan. They were clinking champagne flutes, the bubbles catching the blinding sunlight. Behind them, a cascade of pristine white buildings tumbled toward a sea so impossibly blue it vibrated. Santorini. My mother, who had claimed to be too sick to speak, was smiling broadly, her glass held high. My father looked, as he always did, slightly uncomfortable but going along with it, and Lila, my 26-year-old sister, was blowing a kiss at the camera, her hair professionally highlighted and perfect. The caption, posted by my mother, was simple. Blessed family time. The feeling that hit me was not a simple punch. A punch is quick. This was a slow, systemic failure. It was the floor dropping away, the blood draining from my face, leaving my skin clammy under the monitor's glow. It was the realization that the entire aggressive flu narrative was a lie, a coordinated, deliberate deception crafted for one purpose: to exclude me. They were in Greece, on a vacation I had not been invited to, a vacation I was almost certainly funding. I looked at the champagne. I looked at the view. I thought of the automated top 5% email. I was not part of family time. I was the engine that made it possible. The lie was not an oversight. It was logistical. They needed me here, in Denver, working, funding, and out of the way. The silence in the office became absolute, a vacuum pulling all the air from my lungs. My phone, still in my hand, buzzed again. This time, it was not a notification. It was a call, a number I did not recognize, area code 775, Nevada. I glanced at the clock on my monitor, 1:12 a.m. A cold dread, entirely different from the hollow ache of betrayal, settled over me. I answered. "This is Heavenly. Is this Ms. Heavenly Klein?" The voice was male, professional, and devoid of emotion. "Yes, who is this?" "Ma'am, this is Officer Mendez with the Nevada Highway Patrol. I am calling regarding a vehicle registered in your name, a silver 2023 coupe, license plate." He read my plate number back to me. My car. "Yes, that is my car," I said. The analyst in me was already taking over, pushing the emotion down, listening for data. "Is everything all right?" "Ma'am, your vehicle was involved in a single-vehicle collision on Route 95, just outside of Las Vegas. The vehicle is totaled." Totaled, not fender bender, not scratched, totaled. The car I had bought myself 3 months ago, the first truly new thing I had ever owned, the car Lila had borrowed last week. Just to take some pictures for my feed. "Heavenly," she had pleaded. "It will look so good. I will not even drive it far. I promise." I had known it was a bad idea, but the inevitable fight was more exhausting than acquiescing. I gave her the spare key. "Just be careful, Lila." "My sister," I said, my voice tight. "Lila Klein? Was she driving?" There was a fractional pause. "Your sister was not the driver, ma'am. The driver was a male individual. He is currently in custody." "In custody?" "Yes, ma'am. He failed a field sobriety test, blew a .24. 3 times the legal limit." My stomach clenched. "Officer Mendez," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Where is my sister?" "She was on the scene, ma'am. She was the passenger. She declined medical transport. According to the driver's statement," he continued, and his voice was flat, just a man reading a report. "Your sister, Lila Klein, provided him with the keys to your vehicle approximately 30 minutes prior at a party." The 2 data points collided in my brain. The Santorini photo, the totaled car in Nevada. Lila was supposed to be in Greece with my parents, but she was in Las Vegas, handing the keys to my car to a drunk man. Wait, I looked at the photo again. The champagne, the sunset. That picture could have been taken hours ago. She could have flown from there, or... No, the logistics did not matter. The facts did. My car was gone. My name was on a police report. And then, the analyst brain kicked in. Cold and sharp. Negligent entrustment. As the registered owner, I was liable. My name, my insurance, my assets. All the assets I had just spent 14 hours protecting and growing. Lila had not just lied. She had not just joined a conspiracy to exclude me. She had actively, carelessly, and catastrophically endangered my entire life. I hung up with Officer Mendez after getting the incident number. My hands were perfectly still. The betrayal from the Santorini picture was a dull, cold ache. This was a threat. I opened the family group chat. The thread was still titled Klein Fam. The last message was mine. From 2 days ago. "Feel better soon. Let me know if you need anything. Love you." I stared at the words, then I began to type. My message was precise. No emotion, just facts. "My silver coupe is totaled. It was wrecked in Nevada by a drunk driver. The police report states that Lila gave him the keys. Someone needs to explain this to me, now. I hit send. I watched the screen. The delivered receipt appeared. Then, read. The 3 little dots materialized. It was Lila typing. My heart did not pound. It felt like it was encased in ice. The message appeared. Oh my God, Heavenly, can you please not? We are finally having a nice dinner. Stop trying to ruin our trip. It is just a car. You can buy another one. I read the message once, twice. Stop trying to ruin our trip. The trip I was not invited to. The trip they lied to me about. It is just a car. The car I paid for. The car tied to my name, my credit, my legal standing. That was it. That was the moment. The click. It was not loud. It was a tiny, precise sound, like a high-end tumbler in a bank vault locking into place. The person who had written, "Feel better soon," was gone. The sister who sighed and paid for one more emergency was gone. The daughter who absorbed the passive-aggressive comments about her work hours was gone. The woman who remained was Heavenly Klein, senior financial analyst, and she was now managing a hostile account. My entire life, I had endured, I had accommodated, I had paid, I had enabled, I had mistaken my role as the family ATM for the role of a daughter and sister. Tonight, endurance was a liability I could no longer afford. This was not a family problem. This was a financial and legal crisis. I closed the group chat. I closed Instagram. I pulled up my contacts. My thumb scrolled past Mom and Dad. It stopped on Jay. Jonah Pike, my personal attorney, the man I had put on retainer 2 years ago after Lila's last misunderstanding with a landlord. Jonah was not a family lawyer. He was a ruthless corporate litigator. He was expensive, precise, and he hated ambiguity. He answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was gravelly but instantly alert. Jonah Pike. Jonah, it is Heavenly Klein. Heavenly, it is 1:45 in the morning in Denver. This is either very good news about that IPO, or it is very bad news about something else. It is clarification. Jonah, I said. My voice was unrecognizable to me. It was flat, cold, and utterly devoid of panic. I need to understand my full liability exposure for negligent entrustment in the state of Nevada, and then I need you to help me execute a complete legal and financial containment strategy, effective immediately. Talk to me, he said. I laid it out, the lie about the flu, the discovery of the Santorini trip, the phone call from the Nevada Highway Patrol, the totaled car, the drunk driver, Lila's involvement, and finally her text message. Stop trying to ruin our trip. There was a long pause on the line, but it was not a pause of shock. It was a pause of calculation. Heavenly, Jonah said finally, his voice now as sharp as my own. This is a multi-front engagement. First, we firewall you from the vehicle liability. We document everything. You were not aware. You were deceived. The keys were used under false pretenses far exceeding the scope of any permission. We file a report. They are in Santorini, I said, on my credit cards. Are they? He asked. The question was soft, but the implication was steel. Yes, supplementary cards, all tied to my primary account. Good, Jonah said. That is our leverage. We are not just building a defense, Heavenly, we are preparing a counteroffensive. The first step is containment. We sever their access. When? Now, he said, but not just by canceling the cards. That is sloppy. We do this surgically. We are going to draft an email. We are going to attach the evidence, the police report, the screenshots, and we are going to send it. But first, you need to open a new spreadsheet. I hung up. The adrenaline was a clean, cold fuel. The exhaustion was gone, burned away. I turned back to my main monitor, the one that still glowed with the top 5% award I had ignored. I closed it. I opened a new blank Excel workbook. In cell A1 I typed Family Ledger. In B1 I typed Amount. In C1 I typed Justification. The time for enduring was over. The time for accounting had begun. I did not need to create a new spreadsheet. The family ledger already existed. It was a password-protected folder on my secure drive, a place I rarely visited because it felt like documenting my own exploitation. Tonight, it was Exhibit A. My work is built on data, on the cold, hard, unassailable truth of numbers. For years, I had applied that skill to everyone but my own family. I had allowed their narrative of emergencies and misunderstandings to cloud the reality of the balance sheet. No more. I clicked the folder. The database opened. It was organized by fiscal year, by recipient. I started with Lila. 60 consecutive months of rent payments. She had never once paid it herself. It began 5 years ago, a modest studio, but escalated 2 years later to a creator-friendly loft in a trendier neighborhood, an expense she justified as essential for her brand. Total rent paid by me, $78,000. Then came the firefighting subfolder, car insurance for the vehicle she had previously damaged, the tuition for the graphic design certification she abandoned after 3 weeks, a series of credit card debts, small at first, then larger, which she called life-crushing. I had paid them all. I clicked the tab for Evelyn. Riverton Country Club, quarterly dues, spa and wellness package, emergency wardrobe refresh, Saks, gala tickets, Denver Art Museum. These were not emergencies. They were line items for a lifestyle she felt entitled to, a lifestyle my father, Martin, could not provide but would not deny her. Martin's tab was smaller, but heavier. 2 bridging loans for bad investments he had made, promising to pay me back with the big return that never came. I highlighted the columns. I ran the calculation. The subtotal appeared at the bottom of my screen in bold type, $128,400. I stared at the number. It felt unreal, too large to comprehend as a gift, too small to represent the actual cost. This was not the whole picture. This tally did not include the casual dinners, the endless groceries, the plane tickets, the Christmases, the birthdays. This was not the price of love. This was the documented, itemized price of admission to a family that had just boarded a plane to Greece without me. The true evidence, the proof of intent, was sitting right next to my monitor. It was an older iPad Pro. I had bought it for my mother 2 years ago. Set it up with my own Apple ID, just to make it easy, so I could download the apps she wanted and troubleshoot it remotely. She had used it for a month, complained it was too heavy, and handed it back to me on a visit. "You keep it, honey. It is too complicated." I used it now as a digital dashboard, but I had never logged my account out of it, and my iMessages, all my iMessages, were synced. I swiped the screen. It lit up, a bright, intrusive blue. It was a sea of evidence. The Klein fam chat was there, but beneath it were the individual threads, the threads I was not supposed to see. I tapped the one between Evelyn and Lila. My breath caught, not in a gasp, but in a sudden, cold stop. The messages were from 3 weeks ago. Evelyn, "We are booking Santorini. I will tell Heavenly we have the flu. She will buy it." Lila, "Won't she be upset when she finds out?" Evelyn, "She will be fine. Heavenly only knows work. She does not even know how to take a vacation. It is better this way. Less drama. She would just spend the whole time on her laptop anyway. My presence was the drama. My contribution was the expectation. My absence was the preference. I scrolled down, my thumb moving with the mechanical precision of a machine. A message chain from last week, just before Lila borrowed my car. Lila, "What about the coupe? I told her I just wanted it for photos here." Evelyn, "Heavenly is buried in that big deal. She will not even notice it is gone. Just be discreet. What she does not know will not hurt her." Be discreet. Handing the keys to my car to a drunk man in Las Vegas while they were in Greece. That was their definition of discretion. This was not carelessness. It was contempt. It was the chilling realization that to them, my assets, my car, my money, my time, were not mine. They were a communal resource they had the right to manage and to lie about. I turned back to my main monitor. The analyst took over. The daughter was gone. I opened a new document and titled it, Timeline of Deception. I cross-referenced the iMessage timestamps with my calendars and my bank statements. The story it told was damning. Entry 1. October 30th. Evelyn and Lila discuss the flu strategy. Entry 2. November 1st. My primary credit card statement shows 3 charges. Aegean Airlines. Santorini Luxury Villas. Total, $14,800. Entry 3. November 19th. Lila borrows the coupe. iMessage. Be discreet. Entry 4. November 21st, 9:15 a.m. My phone call with Evelyn. Horribly sick. Entry 5. November 21st, 2:30 p.m. My credit card statement shows a charge from Signature Flight Support, a private charter terminal in Eagle County. They did not even fly commercial. They had driven 2 hours to a private airport to ensure they would not be seen. Entry 6. November 22nd, 11:40 p.m. Denver time. Instagram post from Santorini. Caption. Blessed. Entry 7. November 23rd, 1:12 a.m. Call from Nevada Highway Patrol. The timeline was irrefutable. This was not a spontaneous trip. It was a coordinated, premeditated conspiracy to defraud. And the crime was still in progress. I logged into my primary credit card portal, the one that fed the 3 supplementary cards held by Evelyn, Martin, and Lila. The pending charges section was a hive of activity. They were not just in Santorini, they were consuming it. Uzeri by the Sea, Santorini, Greece, a charge for €450. Hellenic Gems, Santorini, Greece, a charge for €3,200. Apollo Sunset Lounge, Santorini Yacht Charters. They were not just having dinner, they were celebrating. They were toasting their successful deception with my money, while my car sat in a Nevada impound lot, its frame twisted beyond recognition. My phone buzzed. A text from Jonah. We begin? I called him, putting the phone on speaker. His voice filled the sterile air of my office. Okay, heavenly, he said. His voice was all business. This is no longer a family squabble. This is a targeted campaign. We need to build the defining dossier. I want everything. The police report, the photos from the crash scene, which I'm having my Nevada contact pull right now, every bank statement from the last 60 months that shows a transfer to them, the screenshots of the iMessages, the receipts for the airline tickets, the Instagram post. I want a complete, unassailable portrait of systematic financial exploitation culminating in this act of extreme liability. I have it, I said. I segmented my screen. On one side, I compiled the files into a single, encrypted PDF. On the other, I kept the live feed of their spending. What about the cards? I asked. They are still spending, right now. That is the beauty of this, Jonah said. The gravel in his voice almost sounded like a smile. They are arrogant. They think you are the reliable, endlessly forgiving utility. They do not know you have disconnected the power, but we do not disconnect it yet. I paused. Why not? Because this is Thanksgiving, he said. They are having a feast. We are going to let them finish the main course. We are going to let them order the most expensive dessert and the celebratory champagne. And right when the bill comes, we cut the line. He proposed the email bomb. At exactly 6 p.m. Denver time tomorrow, Jonah instructed. That is 3 a.m. for them. They will be asleep, or just getting back from their party. But it is symbolic for us. It is the moment the rest of America is sitting down for a family dinner. It will be the moment their financial world ends. It is not just the cards, Jonah, I said, my voice cold. It is everything. Their phones are on my plan, their apartment, their club, all of it. We sever it all, he confirmed, but we do it with precision. I spent the next 2 hours in a state of pure, cold focus. First, I went into my credit card portal. I did not cancel the supplementary cards. A cancellation can be messy, and sometimes flagged charges still go through. Instead, I set the credit limit for each supplementary card to $1. The system would not decline the charge immediately. It would flag it as over limit and require a call that would come to me. Second, I changed every password, my Apple ID, which immediately bricked the iPad on my desk, my bank portals, my email, every shared subscription, from Netflix to the New York Times. The digital umbilical cord was severed. I enabled two-factor authentication on everything, linking it only to my cell number. Third, I drafted the termination of support statement. Jonah had given me the template. It was not an email from a daughter, it was a legal notice. I opened a new message. To Evelyn Klein, Martin Klein, Lila Klein, subject, immediate termination of all financial support and legal notification. I did not write Dear Mom and Dad. This document serves as formal and immediate notification that as of 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on November 23rd, all voluntary financial support, access to credit, and use of property provided by Heavenly Klein is terminated indefinitely. I did not use emotional words, no betrayal, no hurt, no how could you. I used contractual language. Breach of trust, willful misrepresentation, gross negligence, exposure to extreme legal and financial liability. I listed the two primary offenses. 1. The conspiracy to deceive regarding the Santorini vacation. 2. The incident in Nevada, resulting in the total loss of my property and significant legal exposure. I attached the dossier. Attachment A, Timeline of Deception. Attachment B, Nevada Highway Patrol Incident Report, Case 884G. Attachment C, iMessage transcripts, Evelyn Lila. Attachment D, Summary of Financial Support, 5-year. The email was complete. It was a declaration of independence. It was a war document. My finger hovered over the send button, but Jonah was right. Timing was everything. I clicked the Schedule Send option. I entered the date, November 23rd. I entered the time, 6:00 p.m. MST. The computer accepted the command. The email moved from my drafts folder to my outbox, where it sat, a digital time bomb, waiting for the precise moment to detonate. I finally leaned back in my chair. The sky outside my window was no longer black, but a weak, bruised purple. It was Thanksgiving morning. I felt no anger, no sadness, only the profound, clean, and terrifying relief of a decision finally made. The ledger was balanced. The trap was set. The analyst had done her job. Thanksgiving Day in Denver is usually a brilliant, high-altitude blue, a crisp prelude to a day of overindulgence and forced gratitude. This morning, the sun was just as bright, but it served only to illuminate the fine layer of dust on my home office desk. I had not slept. Sleep was a luxury. Today was for operations. My work is about mitigating risk, and for my entire adult life, I had allowed the single greatest risk to my stability to live inside my walls, under my name, and tied to my bank accounts. The email bomb was set, the timer ticking down in a small window on my monitor. 10 hours, 42 minutes, 16 seconds, but the bomb was just the payload. The morning was for building the blast walls. I started with a full audit of every authorization I had ever granted. My analyst brain took over, creating a new spreadsheet titled Access and Control. I went through my banking portals, not just the credit cards, but my checking, my high-yield savings, my brokerage account. I was looking for any secondary users, any automated payment authorizations, any lingering power of attorney I might have signed in a moment of naive family devotion. I found one, a limited financial power of attorney I had granted my father, Martin. 3 years ago, when I was undergoing a minor surgery, it was supposed to be temporary, just to pay my bills if I was incapacitated. It had never been revoked. My blood ran cold. He could, in theory, walk into my bank and attempt a withdrawal. I downloaded the revocation form, electronically signed it, and had it notarized online before 6:30 a.m. I emailed it to my bank's legal department with a high-priority flag. The first key ho, The first loophole was closed. I moved on to utilities. The phone plan, Lila's apartment, which I co-signed, had utilities in my name. I could not just shut them off. That would violate her tenant rights, even if I paid the rent. But I could, and did, file a transfer of liability form, scheduling it for the end of the current billing cycle. Her rent was paid for December 1st. After that, she would be responsible for her own shelter and heat. My phone buzzed. Jonah Pike. Status? He said. It was not a greeting. Revoked a POA for my father, filing transfer of liability for the apartment utilities. The credit card limits are set to $1. The email is scheduled for 6 p.m. Good, he grunted. Now, for the offense, I have drafted the provisional cease and desist letters. One for Evelyn, one for Lila. They are aggressive. He emailed them over. I read them. The language was brutal. It accused them of a coordinated campaign of defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy to commit fraud. It demanded they immediately cease and desist any and all communication, direct or indirect, that paints Heavenly Klein in a false or negative light. They have not done anything yet. Jonah, I said, my voice flat. They will, he said. The moment the money stops, the narrative begins. They will pivot from grateful dependents to victims of a cruel, unstable daughter. They will call your aunts. They will post on social media. They will try to poison your work. This draft is our pre-written response. The moment they do, we attach their defamatory statement as Exhibit A, and we file. He was right. Their only weapon was narrative, and their narrative required me to be the villain. I saved the drafts to my desktop. Jonah continued. Now, the car. I spoke to my contact at the Nevada Highway Patrol. The driver's blood alcohol content was 0.25. That is more than 3 times the legal limit. He is being charged with aggravated DUI and reckless endangerment. My contact also confirmed the passenger statement. Lila Klein, your sister, admitted to providing the keys. She is quoted as saying, I thought he was fine to drive. That is the ballgame. What does that mean for me? I asked, looking at the countdown clock. 9 hours. It means our vicarious liability argument is strong. You were 2,000 miles away. You were the victim of a coordinated deception, which we can prove with the iMessages. You were not present, and you did not give permission for this individual to drive your car. Lila did. By taking these immediate steps, reporting the incident, documenting the deception, and severing ties, you are demonstrating zero complicity. The insurance company will still try to come after you as the owner. We will shut them down. He was building my firewall. I was the client, the asset to be protected. For the first time, someone was protecting me. One more thing. Jonah, I said. I was looking at the iPad, which had gone dark after I changed my Apple ID password, but the old messages were still cached in my phone's memory. I had been scrolling through the thread between Lila and Evelyn, the one where they planned the trip. I had scrolled past the flu comments, past the discreet use of my car, and I found a new chain. From just yesterday. Lila. This dinner at Uzeri is amazing. Tomorrow, after the yacht, I am going to Hellenic Gems. I want that sapphire bracelet we saw. Evelyn. Get it. It is Thanksgiving. It is your gift for putting up with all this travel. Just use the card. Heavenly will not even see the bill for a month. She is too busy working. I read the words out loud to Jonah. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. Jonah? I am here, he said. His voice was different, tighter. That is not just contempt. Heavenly, that is intent. They are actively conspiring to extract as much value as they can before a bubble they know will burst. This is not negligence. This is theft. Add those screenshots to the dossier. Title it, Supplemental Evidence, Conspiracy to Defraud. I did exactly as he said. Now, he said, his voice hard. They are going to call you, a lot. When that email lands, they will panic. They will scream. They will cry. They will threaten. You live in Colorado. It is a one-party consent state. Am I clear? One-party consent, I repeated. I am the one party. You will not engage, he commanded. You will not argue. You will not defend yourself. You will simply be a recorder. Let them talk. Let them scream. Let them admit to what they did. Every word they say is a nail for their own legal coffin. Do you understand? I understand, I said. I went into my phone's settings and enabled the call recording feature. My next call was one of the hardest. I dialed the private line for the head of compliance at Oak and Bramble Advisory, Sarah Chen. She was a formidable woman, a former SEC prosecutor. Sarah, this is Heavenly Klein. I have a sensitive personal matter that I need to log with compliance, preemptively. She was instantly focused. Go ahead, Heavenly. I am in the process of severing ties with several family members due to a pattern of significant financial exploitation and recent illegal activity involving my property. I have counsel. The situation is contained. I did not give her details. I did not mention Santorini or the car. I used the language of our trade. I am logging this, I continued, because I anticipate there may be retaliatory actions. These individuals may attempt to contact the firm, my superiors, or even HR with defamatory claims. They may try to paint me as unstable or compromised. I want to assure the firm that my work is, as always, secure and my focus is unimpeded. But I wanted you to have this on record as a potential social engineering or reputation attack. Sarah was silent for a moment. Thank you for your proactivity. Heavenly, this is exactly the right protocol. You are advising us of a potential external threat. We will flag your name in our system. Any inbound communication of that nature will be routed directly to legal and not to your department head. Consider it handled. And Klein, good for you. I hung up, the tension in my shoulders releasing by a fraction. The professional firewall was built. Now, only the data remained. I spent the next several hours doing what I do best. I took the raw data from my family ledger, the $128,400 in explicit transfers, and I translated it. I converted the cold, dead numbers into a story that anyone could understand. I created a series of simple, devastating charts. The first was a bar chart titled 5-Year Financial Support, H. Klein. There were 3 bars, Lila, Evelyn, Martin. Lila's bar was a skyscraper, towering over the other 2, color-coded in a bright, angry red. The second was a pie chart of Lila's support. Rent took up 60%. Credit card bailouts took 20%. Insurance and fees took 10%. The last 10% was a sliver labeled cash, miscellaneous emergencies. The third was a line graph mapping Evelyn's spending from my supplementary card over 24 months. It showed terrifying, regular spikes, almost always on a Friday, almost always at the same high-end boutiques or the country club. I looked at the charts. This was not a family. This was a portfolio of bad investments. This was a parasitic drain on a host organism. This was the proof, in high-resolution graphics, that their love was a line item. I added the charts to the dossier. The clock on my monitor read 5:45 p.m. 15 minutes. My hands, which had been so steady all day, began to feel a faint tremor, not of fear, of finality. I had been Heavenly the provider for so long. I was not sure who I would be when that role was gone. I had spent a decade building a fortress of wealth, and I had let my own family loot it from the inside. At 6 p.m., the email would go out, the credit lines would freeze, the calls would begin, the life I knew would end. I looked around my quiet apartment. The sun was setting, painting the Denver skyline in shades of apricot and violet. On any other Thanksgiving, I would be at my parents' house, probably helping my mother clean up a mess Lila had made, accepting her passive-aggressive compliments about my work, and writing a check before I left. Instead, I was here, alone. I opened a delivery app. I did not want a turkey. I did not want a feast. I scrolled past the lavish holiday dinners. I found a local bakery that was, miraculously, still open. I ordered 1 single-serving miniature pecan pie. The countdown timer hit 0, 6:15 p.m. The outbox folder was empty. The email was gone. It was hurtling across the globe, an 18,000-mile-per-hour digital execution. My hands were perfectly still. The tremor was gone, replaced by a profound, resonant quiet. I had done the analysis. I had mitigated the risk. I had built the walls. My doorbell rang. It was the pie. I took the small white box into my living room. I sat on my sofa, the one I had paid for. I looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city I had conquered. My reflection stared back at me from the darkening glass. It was not the tired, hollow-eyed analyst from the night before. This woman was different. Her shoulders were back. Her eyes were not anxious. They were clear. They were calm. They were ready. I took a bite of the pie. It was sweet, and it was mine. It was 5:59 p.m. I sat on my sofa, the empty container from the mini pie on my coffee table. The city lights of Denver were beginning to sharpen against the deep indigo sky. My apartment was silent. A soundproof, climate-controlled box high above the world. I watched the digital clock on my cable box. It was 2:59 a.m. in Santorini. In my mind's eye, I saw them. They would be giddy, exhausted, and drunk on my money. They would be at the most expensive table at the most exclusive restaurant, the one perched on the caldera, overlooking the black, sleeping sea, the one I had seen in their Instagram post. They would have just finished the last of the dessert wine, a bottle of Vinsanto, aged, sweet, and priced like a car payment. They would be laughing, toasting the success of their family time, their brilliant deception. My clock read 5:59 and 30 seconds. In Santorini, the waiter, professional and discreet, would be placing a small, leather-bound folder on the table. My mother, Evelyn, feeling expansive and generous, would wave it off. "Oh, no need. Just put it on the card. The Klein card. You have it on file, do you not?" Or perhaps, as per the charge I had seen earlier from the jeweler, she would hand him the supplementary card with my name on it, the heavy metal card I had earned and she had been given. The waiter inserts the card into the portable point-of-sale terminal. He punches in the astronomical sum. The small screen lights up. Authorizing, please wait. The clock in my apartment ticked over. 6 p.m. In my outbox, the email, with its 6 attachments of evidence and its cold, contractual language, vanished. It was sent. Simultaneously, the $1 spending limit I had placed on all 3 supplementary cards became active. The trap was sprung. In Santorini, the POS terminal did not whir, it chirped. A short, sharp, negative sound. The small screen flashed red. Declined. The waiter, a man practiced in politeness, would pause. "My apologies, madam. It seems there is a connection issue. I will try once more." He runs the card again. The same sound. The same red letters. Declined. My phone remained dark, silence. The waiter clears his throat. "I am very sorry, madam. This card is not being accepted. Do you have an alternative method of payment?" I could hear the scene perfectly. Evelyn's quiet fury. This was not annoyance. It was humiliation. Evelyn Klein, being declined. "That is impossible," she would hiss. "Run it again. There must be a mistake with your machine." "I assure you, the machine is fine." "Fine," Evelyn snaps. She turns to my father. "Martin, give him your card." My father, flustered, hands over his own supplementary card. The waiter runs it. Declined. Now, the panic, a small, cold seed. "Lila?" Evelyn says, her voice tight. "Lila." Her face flushed from wine and indignation. Pulls out her card. The 3rd supplementary card, the one I gave her for gas and groceries. Declined. The waiter's professional smile is gone. He is now a creditor. He gestures to the manager, a tall man in a sharp suit, who has been watching. The manager approaches the table. My phone, sitting on the coffee table, lit up. The screen glowed a vicious white. "Lila Klein, incoming call." I let it ring twice. I took a slow breath. Centering myself, I picked up the phone. I tapped accept. I then tapped record. The small, invisible icon appeared. I was one-party consent. I was ready. Heavenly! Lila's voice was a shriek, a sound that drilled directly into my ear. Oh my God. Heavenly. Thank God. You need to call the credit card company. They cut us off. They think it is fraud. All our cards are declined, and the manager here is treating us like criminals. It is so embarrassing. I said nothing. Heavenly, are you there? Did you hear me? You have to fix this, right now. I let the silence stretch. I let her panic echo in the dead air. I could hear my mother's voice in the background, sharp and furious. Give me that phone. The phone was fumbled, and then Evelyn's voice, the one she used for incompetent sales staff, blasted into my ear. Heavenly, what in God's name is the meaning of this? You have embarrassed this entire family. You are abandoning us in a foreign country without a cent. How dare you? After everything we have done for you. You fix this instant. I held the phone slightly away from my ear, letting the recording capture every syllable of her entitled rage. When she finally paused to take a breath, I spoke. My voice was slow. It was cold. It was the voice I used to shut down a bad deal in a boardroom. I have not abandoned anyone, Evelyn. I am ceasing to provide funding for lies. There was a stunned silence. I heard a sharp intake of breath. Lies? She sputtered. What lies? We were sick. Your father was... Did you check your email? I asked, my voice cutting through her performance. The one I sent at exactly 6 p.m. Denver time. I heard a frantic fumbling on their end. I heard Lila's voice, suddenly small. Mom? Wait, I have an email. From Heavenly. I heard the tap, tap, tap of her opening it. I heard her gasp. It was not a sound of drama. It was a sound of true, abyssal horror. Mom, Lila whispered. The police report. The car. Oh my God. The iMessages. She has the iMessages. The ones from you. The phone was silent again. Evelyn had no script for this. Lila got on the phone, and the performance began. The fury was gone, replaced by the sound of manufactured tears. Heavenly, how could you? She sobbed. You know I loved that car. It was an accident. And you post our private messages? You cut us off? For that? We are your family. You are ruining our lives over a stupid car. I let her cry. I let the recording soak up the blatant, desperate manipulation. She was not crying because she was sorry. She was crying because she was caught. I waited. 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 5. The silence was a physical weight, a crushing column of air that contained every receipt, every lie, every dollar. My phone buzzed in my hand, a text message from Jonah, right on schedule. I glanced at the preview. On time. They are panicking. Do not concede. Do not engage. Stick to the script. Lila was still sobbing into the phone. Please, Heavenly, please. The manager is standing right here. Just turn the cards back on. We will pay you back. We promise. Lila, I said, my voice cutting off her wail. What is the total on that bill? I do not know, she stammered. I heard the manager's voice, clear and firm, in the background. He was speaking to Evelyn. Madam, the bill is 15,037 euros. We require payment now. He says it is 15,000 euros, Lila relayed, her voice cracking. Heavenly, please, that is like $15,000. We do not have that. You know we do not have that. Yes, I said. I do know that. That is no longer my responsibility. You will have to find another way to pay. What other way? Evelyn shrieked, grabbing the phone back. You think we just have that kind of money? You are our daughter. You are a grown woman, I replied, my voice dangerously quiet. You booked a $14,000 vacation by lying to me. You will figure it out. I heard a rustle, and Evelyn's voice changed. It became sycophantic, laced with a false, desperate charm. She was not talking to me. "Excuse me," she said to someone near her. "Excuse me, sir, I am so terribly sorry to bother you, but we seem to be having a dreadful international banking crisis. My daughter, she is very unstable. We are Americans. I was wondering if you could possibly, perhaps cover our bill? I would pay you back, of course, with interest." I heard a man's voice, curt and embarrassed. "I am sorry, madam. No, please, leave us alone." The rejection was absolute. The humiliation was complete. And then, I heard Lila. Her pivot was breathtaking. When one performance fails, start another. "What are you doing, Lila?" Evelyn hissed. "Put that phone away." "I am going live," Lila cried, her voice thick with performative despair. "I am going to show everyone. I am going to show all my followers what she is. She is a monster." Through the phone, I heard the distinctive chime of an Instagram live feed starting, and I heard my sister's voice, no longer speaking to me, but to the world. "Hey guys," she sobbed, her face surely blotchy and ruined, not the curated perfection she prized. I do not know what to do. My sister, my evil, rich sister, heavenly. She just cut us off. We are stranded. We are in Greece. And she is abandoning us. Please, if anyone can help us, please. She is trying to destroy us." It was not a boast. It was not a flex. It was the most pathetic, digital age begging I had ever witnessed. I listened for one more moment. I heard the manager in the background, now speaking firmly in Greek, likely telling them he was calling the police. I heard my mother whispering, "Turn that off, you fool! You are making it worse." I had everything I needed. "As I stated," I said, my voice cutting through their chaos for the last time, "this is no longer my concern. All future communication must go through my lawyer. You have his contact information in the email." I did not wait for a reply. I did not say goodbye. I pressed the red End Call button. The recording saved automatically to my secure cloud. The line was cut. The silence in my apartment rushed back in, vast and absolute. The first counteroffensive was complete. The call ended. The silence that rushed into my apartment was heavier and more absolute than any I had ever experienced. The war, however, had simply moved to a new front. My phone, which had been ominously quiet, began to vibrate on the coffee table. It did not ring, it buzzed, a furious, incessant vibration from a swarm of notifications. Instagram. Lila's tear-stained 30-second live video had not been a fleeting moment of panic. It had been saved, edited, and posted as a permanent reel. It was a masterpiece of curated victimhood. Her face, professionally framed, was puffy from what looked like hours of crying. Her voice, practiced in its emotional quiver, cracked on cue. "My sister, heavenly," she wept, her voice barely a whisper. "My own sister, she just cut us off, stranded, in Greece, no money, no way home, all because I borrowed her car. She was brilliant. I had to give her that. Borrowed. Not gave the keys to a drunk driver who totaled it. Not lied about being in the country. She had masterfully omitted the entire Nevada incident. She had framed this entire catastrophic event as a petty familial squabble over a material object, escalated to this horrific level by her cold, unfeeling, rich sister. She was the vulnerable, abandoned waif. I was the monster. The comment section was an immediate inferno. Her 20,000-plus followers and influencer-adjacent friends flooded the post with predictable, outraged support. "This is financial abuse. You are an adult. She cannot do this," one wrote. "Family should not treat family this way," declared another. "DM me. Honey, how can we help? This is toxic." But my name was tagged, my full name, and my world was not just hers. A few of my colleagues, several old university acquaintances, and distant cousins began to see the post. The tide was not completely in her favor. Then, The first crack in her narrative appeared. A user I did not recognize, someone clearly outside her echo chamber, posted a screenshot. It was an old direct message from Lila, bragging to a friend months ago. The screenshot showed Lila's perfect profile picture next to a text bubble that read, "Who cares, LMAO? My sister pays for everything. She has supported me my entire life. It is the least she can do." Suddenly, the comments shifted. Wait, she pays for everything? This sounds like a spoiled brat finally getting cut off. What is the real story about the car? Lila? Why would she strand you over just borrowing it? Lila, realizing she was losing control of her own narrative, deleted the comment. But it was too late. The screenshot had been captured. It was reposted, tagged, and began to spread. Her digital armor was compromised. While Lila was fighting the public battle on Instagram, my mother was launching the private one. My personal email pinged. It was a mass email. BCC'd to what looked like my entire extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I had not seen in 5 years. The subject line was a work of art. Urgent concern regarding Heavenly's stability. I read the email. It was Evelyn at her manipulative peak. She painted a portrait of a daughter who had snapped under the immense pressure of her job. "We are all so worried about her," she wrote, her prose dripping with false concern. "She has been working too hard. She is not herself. She has suddenly, and without warning, cut off the entire family. She is making wild, paranoid accusations and has left us stranded in Greece without access to funds, all over a minor car accident." Minor car accident. The totaled coupe. The driver with a blood alcohol content 3 times the legal limit. "We need to present a united front," she concluded. "This is a cry for help. We need to organize an intervention when if she lets us come home. Please, reach out to her. Show her the family is united. We cannot let her push her loved ones away in her time of crisis." It was brilliant. She was not the villain. She was the concerned mother. I was not the victim. I was the patient. My righteous anger was not a consequence of their actions. It was a symptom of my instability. I forwarded the entire email chain to Jonah. His reply was instantaneous. "This is actionable defamation. This is Exhibit A. We are sending the cease and desist letters to her and Lila right now." I did not need to do anything. Jonah handled it. Within 10 minutes, he had replied all to Evelyn's email, using a list of relatives he had pulled from public records, attaching the formal cease and desist notice. "All further defamatory communication regarding Miss Klein will be met with immediate legal action." His email stated, CCing his entire firm. The United Front was suddenly facing a line of corporate litigators. Just as Jonah had predicted, the next attack came at my foundation, my professional life. I received an email not from HR, but forwarded from HR to Sarah Chen in compliance, who then forwarded it to me and Jonah. It was an anonymous email sent to the general HR inbox at Oak and Bramble Advisory. "To whom it may concern," it read, "I am a friend of Heavenly Klein. I am deeply concerned for her mental wellness. She is exhibiting erratic behavior, talking about conspiracies, and has just financially abandoned her entire family in a foreign country. As a high-level analyst, this level of instability is alarming. I urge you to perform a wellness check or place her on leave before she becomes a liability to the firm or her clients." The email's digital footprint, Sarah noted in her foreword, was masked, but the timing was impeccable. Because I had pre-briefed compliance, this was not a crisis. It was a non-event. Sarah replied to me and Jonah, "As discussed, handled by legal, no action taken, HR is firewalled. Good call, Heavenly." The attack had been neutralized before it ever landed. They thought they were planting a bomb in my career. I had already diffused it. The next wave came from the peacemakers, the family members who believe unity is more important than truth. My phone rang. Aunt Marjorie, my mother's older sister, the family matriarch, self-appointed. I let it go to voicemail. I would not be recorded, and I would not engage. Her message was exactly what I expected. Heavenly darling, this is your Aunt Margie. I just got a very worrying email from your mother, and then a terrifying one from a lawyer. Now, this has all gone too far. You need to call your mother. A family is a family. Money, cars, these things do not matter. You call me back, and we will sort this out. Just the three of us. This is tearing us all apart. This is tearing us apart. My reaction, not their actions. I did not call her back. I opened my email. I attached the single, multi-page PDF I had sent to my family. The email bomb dossier, the timeline, the iMessages, the police report, the financial charts. I wrote one sentence. Aunt Marjorie, here is the data. All my future communication will be through my attorney. I hit send. I did not need to argue. The data argued for me. My phone did not ring again from her number. The desperation, however, was escalating. Lila's evil sister post was evolving. A link appeared in her bio, a GoFundMe page. Help the Klein family get home. The description was breathless. Abandoned in Santorini by a cruel relative, we are trapped, with no access to money for food, lodging, or flights home. The hotel is threatening to throw us out. Please, anything helps. The goal? $20,000. It was audacious, but the internet is a cynical place. The same people who had seen the leaked DMs found the GoFundMe. Wait, your cruel relative is the sister who paid your rent for 5 years? Why were you on a luxury yacht if you have no money? This has scam written all over it. Posting this from a luxury villa? Make it make sense. The GoFundMe was flagged for misleading claims within an hour. The velocity of donations, which had been a brief trickle of $20 contributions from her most naive followers, froze. They were still, however, in a luxury hotel, a hotel that had not been paid. Jonah had my credit card company issue a formal fraud alert on the card on file, referencing the police report from Nevada. Then, he emailed the hotel's legal department directly. He attached the cease and desist order. He informed them that Evelyn, Martin, and Lila Klein were no longer authorized users on my accounts. He stated that any attempt to force charge the card on file, which was now officially reported as compromised, would be treated as credit card fraud and pursued to the fullest extent of the law. The hotel was now a creditor in a legal dispute, not just a host to wealthy tourists. Lila's social media feed, her curated lifeline, became a journal of her unraveling. Her stories, usually vibrant and saturated, turned to black and white. A grainy photo of a much more standard, less impressive hotel room. They downgraded us. We are prisoners. A close-up of a cup of instant noodles. My first meal in 24 hours. A black screen with white text. The truly evil people in the world are the ones who pretend to be good. She was no longer an influencer. She was a digital ghost, haunting her own feed, the victim narrative her only remaining currency. I had logged every interaction, Lila's post, Evelyn's email, Aunt Marjorie's call, the GoFundMe, the wellness check. It was a complete portrait of a cornered animal, lashing out in every direction. But one person had been completely silent. My father, Martin. His supplementary card had been declined just like theirs. He was on Evelyn's mass email, but he had not said a word. That changed late Friday night, 2 days after the email bomb. A new text message appeared on my phone, an unknown number, a Greek country code, but I knew who it was. Heavenly, it is your father. I am using a hotel staff phone. My fingers hovered over the screen. I did not reply. Another message came through, a minute later. Please, can we talk? Just you and me, not with your mother or Lila. Just talk. This was the deviation. This was the one data point that did not fit the pattern of attack. It was an appeal, and for that reason, it was the most dangerous one of all. I felt the old familiar pull, the daughter's instinct, the desire to fix, the desperate hope that one of them, at least one, understood. I took a screenshot. I forwarded it to Jonah. His response was immediate. No, it is a trap. He is the good cop. He is there to manage you, to appeal to your emotions. To get you to turn the money back on so the bad cops stop yelling at him. Do not engage. Stick to the protocol. He is complicit. Jonah was right. My father's silence had been his consent to their plan. His message now was not repentance. It was damage control. I opened my communication log and added the entry. 2317 MST, inbound text from Martin Klein, request for private communication. Then, I texted back to the unknown number. My reply was the same one I gave my aunt. All communication must be directed to my legal counsel, Jonah Pike. His contact information is in the email you received. I blocked the number. I put my phone down. The apartment felt suffocatingly quiet. I had won every battle. I had neutralized every threat, and I felt completely, utterly alone. I had surgically removed my entire family. My phone buzzed one last time. It was not a text. It was a Facebook message. A name I had not seen in a decade. Sarah Jensen, my college roommate. I opened it. Hey, Heavenly, it read. I know we have not talked in forever, but I saw some crazy stuff going around from your sister. I wanted to say, I am not dumb. I remember your family. I remember how hard you worked while Lila was, well, being Lila. You are the most solid person I have ever known. Do not let them make you think you are not. If you ever want to grab coffee and not talk about it, I am in Denver. I read the message again. It was a lifeline, a simple, uncomplicated line of support from the outside world. It was not pity, it was validation. I typed back, I would like that very much. It was a single, small anchor, but it was enough. I was not the villain. I was not the patient. I was just Heavenly, and I was free. I knew the $15,000 restaurant bill was just the appetizer. The main course, the real catastrophic liability, was sitting in an impound lot in Nevada, accumulating fees. My insurance company called on the Monday after Thanksgiving. The holiday weekend, which I had spent in the quiet, sterile productivity of my home office, was over. The business of consequences was beginning. A man named Mr. Henderson, a senior claims investigator with a voice that was aggressively neutral, got right to the point. Ms. Klein, we are processing the total loss claim for your coup. However, we must inform you that this entire claim is being flagged for a full investigation regarding potential negligent entrustment. I had been expecting this. I had Jonah on a separate, muted line. I understand, I said, my voice as level as his. The driver of your vehicle, he continued, the sound of a keyboard clicking in the background, was operating the vehicle with a blood alcohol content of 0.25, more than 3 times the legal limit. Our primary, and frankly, only question, is how he came to be in possession of your keys. Your sister, Lila Klein, was the passenger. My sister, I stated, was in possession of my spare key under the explicitly false pretense of taking photographs for her social media feed, an activity she was to conduct solely within the Denver metropolitan area. She did not have my permission to leave the state. She certainly did not have my permission to allow anyone else to operate the vehicle. I paused, letting the words settle. At the time of the crash, I added, I was under the impression, via a coordinated deception, that my entire family was at home, sick with the flu. Henderson stopped typing. Sick, ma'am. The police report quotes your sister as stating they were on vacation in Las Vegas. Exactly. My attorney, Mr. Pike, has already forwarded you a full dossier documenting this deception. My sister's own admission to the Nevada Highway Patrol that she provided the keys to the drunk driver makes her the sole party responsible for the entrustment. I was 2,000 miles away, and a victim of their fraud. The tone of the call shifted. I was no longer a liability. I was a witness. I see that packet here, Ms. Klein, Henderson said, his voice now holding a trace of partnership. Yes, the driver's statement corroborates that. He confirmed Ms. Lila Klein gave him the keys after, quote, a lot of drinks. This definitely shifts the primary liability focus. We will be pursuing Ms. Klein's personal assets and any applicable personal liability policies she may hold. She had no assets. She had no policy. But the legal and financial arrow was now pointing directly at her, not at me. "They are back in the country," Jonah said, his voice clicking onto the line after I hung up with Henderson. He sounded energized. "I suspect Martin had to use the last of his own savings, if he has any, to buy 3 Economy Plus tickets home." "How do you know?" "Because the harassment has escalated from digital to physical. Your doorman just logged 3 separate attempts by your mother and sister to gain entry to your building this morning. They were turned away, as instructed. They apparently caused a significant scene in your lobby, demanding to see their unstable daughter and rescue her from her lawyers." This was the escalation I had been waiting for. The cease and desist letters had been ignored. The social media campaign was just the opening salvo. Now they were at my door. "This is no longer defense, heavenly," Jonah said, his voice hard. "This is a tactical failure on their part. Their desperation is making them sloppy. We are filing for a temporary restraining order. Today." He filed the ex parte motion within 2 hours. It was a work of art. It was not an emotional plea. It was a clinical execution. It included Lila's unhinged Instagram posts, Evelyn's mass email to our relatives, the screenshot of the anonymous wellness check sent to my employer, the official log from my building's security detailing the lobby incident, and, as the centerpiece, the full transcribed audio from the call I recorded, the one where they shrieked, lied, and threatened. We did not have to wait long. A Denver County District Judge reviewed the petition that afternoon. The court's minute order came back before 5 p.m. Jonah called me, and for the first time, I heard something in his voice that sounded like a victory lap. The judge found, and I quote, "sufficient and compelling evidence of a coordinated campaign of harassment, defamation, and willful infliction of emotional distress." He said the combination of the chat logs, the financial statements, and the police report was overwhelming. He has granted the temporary order. Evelyn and Lila are legally barred from contacting you by any means, coming within 100 yards of your residence or your workplace, and from posting about you, by name, online. They will be served by a sheriff's deputy tonight. Being served with a legal order did not, of course, silence them. It just forced them to find a proxy. The next day, a formal cream-colored envelope arrived at Jonah's office via courier. It was from a white shoe law firm in the Denver Tech Center. One of my mother's country club friends, a man who specialized in high-asset divorces and wills, had sent a letter on Evelyn's behalf. Jonah read it to me over the phone, and his voice was laced with pure, uncut amusement. "It is a demand letter, heavenly, for infliction of emotional distress, hers, not yours." I said nothing. "It claims," he continued, savoring the words, "that your precipitous, cruel, and calumnious abandonment of your family in Greece caused your mother immeasurable mental anguish, public humiliation, and irreparable damage to her personal and social reputation. She is demanding $50,000 and a public apology." I laughed. It was a cold, sharp, unfamiliar sound in my quiet apartment. "She is demanding I pay her for the humiliation she caused herself?" "It is a bluff, heavenly," Jonah said. "A pathetically transparent one. He is her tennis partner, not a real litigator, and he has just made a fatal mistake." He opened a legal dialogue. "I am preparing our response." Jonah's response was not a letter. It was a 12-point legal rebuttal. It was a surgical dissection of their frivolous claim. Point 1 outlined the legal definition of fraud. Point 2 attached the iMessage transcripts proving premeditation. Point 3 cited the Nevada police report. Point 7 referenced the wellness check email as an act of tortious interference with my employment. He concluded his letter with a paragraph I asked him to save for me. "Should your client wish to pursue this baseless and insulting claim," he wrote, "we will not only welcome the opportunity to depose her under oath, but we will also immediately file a countersuit for damages far exceeding your client's demand. This includes, but is not limited to, the full $128,400 $400 in documented misappropriated funds, punitive damages for the conspiracy to defraud, and the full replacement value of the totaled vehicle. We will also, at that time, file a motion for sanctions against you, personally, for filing a bad faith claim. Govern yourself accordingly." The reputation management lawyer and his $50,000 demand evaporated. We never heard from him again. The legal attacks had failed. The social media attacks were now barred by court order. The physical intimidation had been stopped. They had only one move left: the illusion of remorse. This time, the email came from my father. He sent it directly to Jonah. "Mr. Pike," it began, the tone conciliatory and mournful. "I am writing on behalf of my family. We are all deeply hurt by this schism. This is a family matter, not a legal one. My wife and daughter are prepared to offer a private, heartfelt apology to Heavenly for the misunderstandings that have occurred. All we ask is that she, in the spirit of reconciliation, agrees to pay the outstanding $15,000 hotel and restaurant bill from Santorini, which is now in collections and accruing severe interest." Jonah forwarded it to me with a single word: "Thoughts?" My hands did not even tremble. They were still bartering. They were offering me words, a private apology that cost them nothing and admitted no public fault, in exchange for $15,000. They still thought I was the ATM, just one that now required a password of fake remorse. My reply to Jonah was 2 words: absolutely not. Jonah replied to my father, "Ms. Klein categorically declines your offer. The bill is the sole responsibility of those who incurred it. Furthermore, the hearing to make the restraining order permanent is scheduled for 10 days from today. Following the holiday, we intend to see it through." This, finally, is what broke my father. His response came 2 hours later, not as a formal email, but as a desperate, rambling reply from his personal account. It was not the measured tone of a man representing his family. It was the frantic confession of a man who had lost control. "Mr. Pike, you do not understand," he wrote. "I did not know about the car. I swear. I only knew they wanted to go away. Evelyn said Heavenly was too busy and would feel guilty if she could not go. So the flu story was her idea to protect her. I went along. I did not want to cause a fight." He kept writing, the words tumbling out. "I used the supplementary card. Yes, but not like them. Not for yachts. Just things. Dinners for clients to keep my job. A new suit for a meeting. Things Evelyn expected. Things I could not afford on my own salary. It was about keeping up appearances. I always meant to pay it back. I just fell behind." I read the email 3 times. It was the first truly honest thing my father had said to me in my entire adult life, and it was utterly pathetic. It was a complete abdication of his role as a husband, as a father, as a man. He had let my mother and my sister run his life, and he had used my money as the fuel to keep his own fragile ego from collapsing. I felt a twinge, not of pity, but of a cold clarity. I called Jonah. "He admitted it," I said. "He admitted to knowingly using my funds to keep up appearances. It is a written confession of his complicity." "Yes, it is," Jonah said. "What do you want to do with it?" I thought for a moment. Lila and Evelyn were an infection to be excised. My father was a different problem, a weakness, a rot in the foundation. "He is separate," I said, the decision forming as I spoke. "He is not named on the restraining order, not yet. Send him a separate proposal, a repayment plan, just for his portion of the spending, the suits, the dinners, the club fees. Calculate it. Add a nominal, non-punitive interest rate. Make it a formal promissory note. If he signs it and begins payments, he stays out of the primary lawsuit. If he refuses, he gets bundled in with them." Jonah was quiet for a second. "That is shrewd, heavenly." Jonah drafted the payment plan, a simple, 2-page document. He sent it to my father's personal email. My father did not reply. For 3 days, there was silence. He had been offered a path to dignity, a way out that only required him to take the smallest amount of personal responsibility. And he was silent. He was, for the first time, being forced to look in the mirror, and he clearly could not stand what he saw. While he agonized, I finalized my defenses. I had already revoked his old power of attorney. Now I closed the joint savings account we had opened 10 years ago for my first home, an account I had funded entirely and he had been listed on just in case. I moved the funds to a new institution, under my name and my name alone. The hearing for the permanent restraining order was set. My presentation was ready. It was not an emotional plea. It was a binder. It was the facts, the iMessages, the police report, the timeline, the financial charts. My case did not rely on how I felt. It relied on what they did. My principle was no longer endurance. It was accountability. The family ATM was closed, the vault was sealed, and the ledger, for the first time in my life, was finally balanced. The temporary restraining order was a legal wall, but a wall does not stop desperation. It just forces it to find new, more pathetic ways to climb. The first pebble was thrown on Tuesday. A text message from a burner number, an anonymous, untraceable whisper. It read, "We know what you did. A story is being shopped to the Denver tabloids. Cold-hearted analyst at Oak and Bramble Advisory financially abuses her elderly parents, leaves them for dead in Greece. Think about your career. Heavenly. Think about your clients. Pay the $15,000 bill and the story goes away." I screenshotted it and sent it to Jonah. This was not just harassment, it was extortion. His reply was a text. "This is Lila. It is sloppy. She thinks a burner app makes her invisible. She is trying to negotiate, but she is violating the TRO by proxy. This is contempt. We are going to use it." Jonah replied to the burner number from his own phone. A calculated legal maneuver. My client does not respond to anonymous threats. If you have a legitimate claim, present it to me in writing. Otherwise, this communication will be added to the file for the upcoming contempt hearing. The anonymous texter, panicked and clearly not a strategic thinker, replied almost immediately. "You think I'm kidding? She will be sorry. Check this link. The draft is ready to go." A link followed. Jonah's response to me was instant. "And we have her. Never click an unknown link, especially not one from a cornered, non-technical amateur. That link is a simple IP grabber, a tracker. She just thought she was sending a threat. She was actually sending us her location. One moment." I waited. The silence in my apartment was absolute. "Got it," Jonah texted. "The IP address is leased from a cafe in Cherry Creek North, less than half a mile from Lila's apartment. The device ID signature? An iPhone 14 Pro. Same as hers. She is in violation. We have her. This donja, this bluff, is dead." He would save this new evidence for the permanent hearing. The tabloid story was a fantasy. The next attack came, as I knew it would, from my mother. Blocked by the court, she had turned to her only remaining power base, the family. I was finalizing a market analysis when an email landed in my inbox. It was from my cousin, Mark, the one I had helped restructure his student loan debt 2 years ago, the one who, unlike the others, had actually paid me back. The subject line was, "You need to see this. Audio file attached." The email was short. "Heavenly, I am on your side. I do not know what is going on, but I know you. Your mother held a family crisis meeting on Zoom last night. I was invited. I recorded it. I also transcribed the minutes. They are planning something. Do not let them win." My hand was shaking as I opened the PDF. It was a 20-page transcript of the call. I read it, and the blood in my veins turned to ice. Aunt Marjorie's voice was the first one I recognized. "Evelyn, this has gone too far. A restraining order? Lawyers? This is not our family." And then, my mother's voice, thick with her practiced, manipulative sorrow. "She is not well. Margie, that is what I am trying to tell all of you. She is completely irrational. The lawyers have her brainwashed. This is not my daughter. It is a hostile stranger. We must force her to get help. We must save her from herself." "What do you mean? Force?" another uncle asked. "Her weak point," Evelyn had explained, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "is her job. She worships that firm. If she thinks her career is in jeopardy, she will crack. We need to apply pressure there. We will start a rumor that she is unstable, that she is using company resources for this vendetta, that she is a liability. We will find someone, a concerned colleague. We will write anonymous letters. They will have to put her on leave. And when she has nothing left, she will have no choice but to drop this lawsuit and come home. She will have to apologize." I stopped reading. I was breathing hard. This was not a plan for reconciliation. This was a coordinated plot to destroy my career, my one area of safety and competence, all to force me back into the role of the family ATM. I attached the audio file and the transcript to a new email. I sent it to Jonah, and I copied Sarah Chen in compliance at Oak & P. Bramble Advisory. Sarah's reply came in under 5 minutes. It was a forward of an email that had already been sent to her by HR. Ms. Klein. Her email began, "This audio file confirms the analysis from your proactive report. As it happens, we received 3 separate anonymous tips to this exact effect yesterday afternoon. They were, per our prior discussion, immediately flagged as a bad faith external harassment campaign. Consistent with the pattern you identified, they were dismissed as baseless. For your personal records, your quarterly performance review was finalized this morning. You are in the top 5% of analysts, firm-wide, with 0 complaints. Oak & P. Bramble Advisory stands fully and unequivocally behind you. This line of attack is closed." Their second bluff had hit the firewall I had built weeks ago. Their whispers were met with a corporate memorandum confirming my value. They had no idea I was insulated by the very competence they were trying to weaponize against me. The failure of their plots had real-world consequences. The desperation was not just emotional, it was financial. The GoFundMe page Lila had started was the first to go. I received a notification from the platform. This campaign, Help the Klein Family Get Home, has been suspended due to multiple violations of our terms of service, including a failure to verify the claims. The $20,000 they had been begging for, the digital collection plate for their lies, was gone. Then came the Santorini bill, the 15,000 euros. Jonah called me. I just had a fascinating conversation, heavenly, with the collections department of the Santorini luxury villas. They have been trying to reach your mother for over a week. Apparently, they gave her a final demand. Pay the 15,000 euro bill in 24 hours, or they will be filing a report with the Greek authorities and pursuing international collections against her and Mr. Ms. Klein. That is their problem, I said, my voice flat. Yes, it is, Jonah said. I merely confirmed that you are not, and have never been, a party to that debt. How they resolved it was a mystery, until my cousin Mark emailed me again. One more thing, he wrote. My mom, Aunt Marjorie, is beside herself. She just got off the phone with your mom. Evelyn was hysterical. She had to sell her ruby anniversary ring to a jeweler in Athens to pay the hotel bill and buy 3 economy tickets back to the States. She is not happy. The ruby ring, the one my father had bought her for their 25th anniversary, the one I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had paid for. It had come from a bridging loan I had given my father 5 years ago. A loan he, of course, never repaid. She had just sold one of my own assets to pay for the vacation she had lied to me about. The poetic justice was so bitter it was almost sweet. With Evelyn financially eviscerated and her reputation in tatters, Lila tried one last, desperate move. She was barred from contacting me, so she called Jonah's office, demanding to speak to him. She is a piece of work, Jonah told me later. She demanded a sister-to-sister negotiation, said she was willing to talk, and that I was blowing this all out of proportion. I informed her that I am your sole legal representative and she could address me. What did she say? I asked. She tried the victim angle, Jonah said, clearly amused. When I reminded her that the court found the evidence overwhelming, she pivoted. He paused. She threatened us. Heavenly. She said, and I quote, "If you do not drop this restraining order, I will release Heavenly's therapy journals. All of them. I will send them to her work. I will send them to everyone. We will see how stable she looks then." I was silent for a moment. Then I laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. "Jonah, I have never been to therapy. I do not have any therapy journals." "I figured as much," he said. "It is the most idiotic, desperate bluff I have ever heard, a complete fabrication. But it is still a threat, and a particularly nasty one. I am sending her lawyer, who, by the way, is a public defender assigned for the TRO hearing, a formal warning, informing him that his client is attempting to extort mine by threatening to fabricate documents, which is a felony. She is done. She has no more moves." The alliance of Evelyn and Lila was shattered. They were out of money, out of credibility, and out of threats. The united front was a smoking crater. And then, the final piece fell into place. It happened on Friday morning. I was checking my bank accounts, the new, sterile accounts that had no links to my family. I had set up a separate, new checking account specifically for the repayment plan I had offered my father, the one he had met with deafening silence. Until today, a new transaction was pending. Incoming wire transfer. Martin Klein. Amount, $500. It was $500. I stared at the number. It was not the money. It was the memo line, typed in simple, block letters. Payment 1 of 60. He had signed the promissory note. He had accepted the terms. He had, in the quietest, most spineless way possible, chosen a side. He had chosen to be accountable. He had broken ranks. I closed my laptop. I did not feel triumph. I did not feel joy. I felt the unmistakable, tectonic shift of power. The scales, which had been permanently and agonizingly tipped against me my entire life, had not just leveled, they had tipped entirely in my favor. Lila was disarmed, Evelyn was broke, and my father, the silent enabler, was now, by legal contract, on my side of the ledger. He was paying his debt. The countdown clock to the permanent restraining order hearing was ticking, and I knew, with the cold, hard certainty of a balance sheet, that I had already won. The courtroom was small, windowless, and smelled faintly of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. It was the opposite of glamorous. There were no packed benches, no flashing cameras. There was just a judge, a bailiff, 2 lawyers, and us. This was not a television drama. It was the mundane, administrative machinery of consequences. I sat next to Jonah, my binder, the email bomb dossier, sat on the table in front of me. It was bound in simple, professional black. I wore a dark gray suit, the same one I wore for shareholder meetings. I was not here as a daughter. I was here as the petitioner. On the other side of the aisle, Lila and Evelyn sat with a harried-looking public defender. Lila was attempting a look of somber innocence, wearing a pale yellow dress, her hair pulled back. She looked young, frightened, and completely fraudulent. Evelyn, beside her, radiated pure, unadulterated indignation. She stared at me as if I were the one on trial. My father was not present. "We are here," the judge said, a woman with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "On the petition for a permanent civil restraining order, Klein versus Klein, Mr. Pike, you may begin." Jonah stood. He did not pace. He did not perform. He simply opened his copy of the binder. "Your Honor," he began, "this is not a case of a simple family disagreement. This is a case of protracted, systematic financial exploitation, culminating in a series of targeted, unlawful acts of harassment. The evidence we have submitted is, as you noted in your temporary order, overwhelming. We have provided a 5-year financial ledger documenting over $128,000 in non-reciprocal transfers. We have provided the airline and hotel receipts, proving the respondents conspired to deceive my client with a fabricated story about being sick, in order to take a luxury vacation funded by my client." He gestured to Lila, a vacation during which the respondent, Ms. Lila Klein, took my client's vehicle, borrowed under false pretenses, out of state, and then provided the keys to a severely intoxicated individual, resulting in the total loss of the vehicle and significant legal exposure for my client. Evelyn let out a theatrical gasp. "That is not true. It was an accident." The judge's eyes snapped to her. "Madam, you will be silent, or I will have you removed. This is your one and only warning. Your attorney can speak for you." Evelyn turned crimson and sank back into her chair. "And when my client," Jonah continued, his voice unchanged, "acted to protect herself by severing these financial ties, she was met with a campaign of terror. We have provided the audio recordings of the respondents threatening, insulting, and attempting to emotionally blackmail my client. We have provided the mass email from Ms. Evelyn Klein to the entire extended family, deliberately and falsely painting my client as mentally unstable, a clear act of defamation. We have provided the anonymous emails to my client's employer, a calculated attempt at tortious interference with her career, and we have provided the evidence of Ms. Lila Klein's attempt to extort my client by threatening to release fabricated therapy journals." The judge looked down at the binder. She had already read it. She looked at Lila's attorney. "Counselor, your response to this mountain of evidence?" The public defender stood. He looked as tired as the judge. "Your Honor, my clients admit things, got heated. This is a family dispute. My clients were emotional. They felt abandoned." He turned to Lila. "Ms. Klein, can you tell the court what happened in Nevada?" Lila stood, her hands clasped. She turned on the tears. I made a mistake," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I met this guy. I only had a few drinks, just a few. I thought he was fine to drive. It was just a little mistake. And she ruined our lives for it. She is cruel. She is the one abusing us." I did not react. I simply watched her. It was the same performance she had given her entire life. Jonah stood slowly. "Your Honor, we had anticipated this defense. Ms. Klein claims she had just a few drinks. We would like to submit one final piece of evidence." He produced a flash drive. "This is surveillance footage from the Liquid Cactus Bar at the Las Vegas hotel where Ms. Klein was. It is time-stamped for the 40 minutes immediately preceding the 911 call. We have subpoenaed the receipts. We ask that the court watch." Lila's face went white. Her attorney looked at her, shocked. "Your Honor, we object." "On what grounds?" the judge asked, her patience gone. "This is a civil hearing. I will see the evidence. Play it." Jonah inserted the drive. The screen on the wall lit up. It showed a grainy, color-saturated view of the bar. There was Lila, in a glittering top, laughing and drinking. We watched, in silence, as the timestamp in the corner showed her order and consume 4 large, brightly colored cocktails, 4 of them, in 40 minutes. We watched her giggle, stumble slightly, and then, most damningly, toss the keys to the man beside her. Lila's sobs were no longer a performance. They were the choked, ugly sounds of someone who had just been checkmated. The judge had seen enough. "Turn it off." She removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. She looked at Lila, and her expression was pure ice. "Ms. Lila Klein," the judge said, her voice quiet but filling the room. "You sat there, under the implied oath of this court, and you lied directly to my face. This is not a family dispute. This is a parasitic relationship. I have reviewed the evidence. I have seen the iMessage transcripts. I have seen the financial statements. I have heard the audio." She turned her gaze to Evelyn. "And you, Ms. Evelyn Klein, your attempt to professionally and socially destroy your daughter because she refused to continue funding your lifestyle is one of the more chilling acts of malice I have seen in this courtroom." She made her ruling. "The petition is granted. A permanent restraining order is issued against Ms. Lila Klein for a period of 3 years. She is barred from all contact, direct or indirect. She is barred from posting about the petitioner online. Any violation will result in her immediate arrest." She looked at Evelyn. "As for you, Ms. Evelyn Klein, you are formally warned. You are not a respondent on this order today, but you are a co-conspirator. The evidence of defamation and tortious interference is profound. You are ordered to remove any and all defamatory content online regarding this matter immediately. If I see your name in my courtroom again, I will not be so lenient." It was over. I felt nothing, just the quiet, empty relief of a long, complex project finally being closed. The fallout was immediate. The insurance company, upon receiving the court's final ruling, closed its investigation. They issued a check for the remaining value of the coupe, just over $41,000. It was a paltry sum for what the car had represented, but it was a resolution. The check arrived at my apartment. It was made out to me. I endorsed it, but I did not deposit it into my account. I walked it, in person, to the downtown office of the Denver Women's Shelter. I handed it to the director. "I would like to make an unrestricted donation," I said. It was the most symbolic transaction of my life. I had sold the twisted, ruined metal of their greatest betrayal, and I had used the proceeds to buy freedom for other women. The rest of their world unraveled quickly. The tabloid story that Lila had threatened me with? It never ran. Jonah's legal warnings, combined with the official court order, had made me a legal landmine. No local paper was willing to risk a massive lawsuit to print the ramblings of a discredited, court-sanctioned harasser. Lila, without my rent payments, and with a restraining order that made her unemployable in the influencer world she prized, could not afford her loft. I had paid her last month, but December 1st came and went. She was evicted. Her influencer, friends, who had so eagerly piled on me in her comments, vanished. She was no longer a glamorous asset. She was a toxic liability. Evelyn, stripped of her money and her primary victim, continued to spin. Aunt Marjorie called me once, confused. "Your mother says, she says you had her legally silenced and that you are pathologizing her love. She says she is setting boundaries with you now." "That is her narrative, Aunt Margie," I said, my voice tired. "I have the court's narrative. It is the only one that matters." The relatives stopped calling. Evelyn's therapy speak was a thin veil for her malice, and everyone, finally, could see it. Then, there was my father. He had paid his first $500 installment. He had been silent ever since, until the day after the hearing. An email arrived, not to Jonah, to my personal account. "Heavenly, I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I am not Lila. I just need to see you. Please, a coffee, 10 minutes, in public. I need to say something, please." I looked at the message, this new, pathetic attempt to bypass the wall I had built. This was the good cop routine Jonah had warned me about. But I was curious. He had signed the note. He had broken ranks. He was a loose variable. I forwarded it to Jonah. "My inclination is to go, but not alone, and not as his daughter. I want you there." Jonah's reply: "Agreed. It is a controlled environment. We go as your legal counsel. He wants to talk? He can talk to both of us. We will set the terms." We chose a generic, bright, charmless coffee shop in a strip mall, equidistant from my apartment and his, a place with no memories, a neutral territory. I saw him before he saw me. He was sitting at a small table, staring into a paper cup. He looked small. The bluster, the forced head of the family persona, was gone. He looked gray, tired, and defeated. He saw me walk in, and a flicker of relief crossed his face. Then he saw Jonah walk in directly behind me, carrying a briefcase. The relief vanished, replaced by a deep, hollow-eyed resignation. He knew, in that instant, that his daughter was gone. He was meeting with Ms. Klein and her attorney. We did not sit. We stood opposite his table. "Martin," Jonah said, his voice polite but firm, "thank you for meeting with us. You requested this. What did you want to say? My father looked at me, his eyes pleading. Heavenly, can we just have a minute? No, I said. My voice was not cruel. It was just a fact. Mr. Pike is my counsel. He is here. Whatever you have to say, you can say to both of us. He swallowed. He seemed to shrink. He nodded, accepting the new reality. I wanted you to know. I knew about the flu. I knew from the beginning. This was it. The confession I had always known, but never heard. Evelyn told me the plan. He continued, his voice barely a whisper. She said you would just be working anyway, that you would not even want to go, that it was kinder to just let you work, and I knew it was wrong, but I did not want to fight. I did not want her to be angry, so I said nothing. He looked down at his hands. When Lila took the car, I did not know about that part, but the trip, the lie, I knew. I let it happen. I am so sorry. Heavenly, I am so sorry I was weak. I looked at him, the man who was supposed to protect me, the man who had stood by, silent, while my mother and sister looted my life, all because he was afraid of a fight. I did not feel rage. I did not feel pity. I felt a great, empty closure. He had finally told the truth. I know, I said. He looked up, confused. You know? I have known my whole life. Dad, I have always known you were silent. I have always known you were afraid. I took a breath. I appreciate the honesty, finally, and I forgive you. I forgive you for the silence. A tear traced its way down his cheek. He looked like he was about to speak, to hope. I cut him off. But I am not returning to that system. This, I gestured to the coffee shop, to Jonah, to the legal and emotional space between us. This is the new reality. You made your choice. You chose them, and I have, finally, chosen me. You will continue to make your payments, and we will have nothing else to discuss. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. Jonah followed me. I did not look back. My high-rise apartment in Lodo had been a fortress. It was a sterile, glass-walled box in the sky. More of a corporate statement than a home. A place I slept between 14-hour workdays. After the hearing, I did not just walk away from my family. I walked away from that version of my life. I sold it. I let go of the mortgage, the oppressive space, the floor-to-ceiling windows that only ever showed me my own reflection staring back. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. It was a third of the size, a classic pre-war brick building with floors that creaked and radiators that hissed. It was perfect. For the first time in my adult life, I unpacked all my boxes. I did not just set up a desk and a bed. I painted the walls a warm, soft white. I bought a real sofa, one chosen for comfort, not aesthetics. I spent an entire Saturday morning at a local nursery and came home with pots and soil. I planted mint, basil, and rosemary in a window box that caught the afternoon sun. The smell of damp earth and fresh herbs filled my small kitchen. It smelled like something alive, something that was mine to nurture. The day I donated my old family ledger spreadsheets to the shelter was the day I had the check for the car delivered. I had walked into the Denver Women's Shelter, handed over the $41,000 check, and felt the last, heavy chain of that coupe fall away. But the director, a woman with kind eyes and a steel spine, had asked, "Your lawyer mentioned you are an analyst. The money is a miracle, Ms. Klein. But your time? That would be transformative." So I started volunteering. Every other Saturday, I sat in their small resource center with a laptop. I was not Heavenly the ATM. I was Ms. Klein, the budget counselor. I took the same spreadsheets I had used to track my family's parasitic drain and repurposed them. I taught women fleeing abusive situations how to build a credit score. I created models for zero-based budgeting, helping them allocate every single dollar of their new, fragile incomes. I shared my family ledger template, but we renamed it. We called it the Independence Tracker. I was taking the tools of my oppression and turning them into weapons of liberation for others. It was the most satisfying work I had ever done. At home, my healing was a quieter, more private project. I created a new document, a single page. I printed it and stuck it to my new, much smaller refrigerator. It was titled The 10 Principles of Financial Boundaries. 1. I am not a communal resource. My finances are private. 2. No is a complete sentence and does not require a spreadsheet to justify. 3. I will not pay to fix a problem I did not create. 4. A family emergency is a medical event, not a failure of another adult to manage their own life. 5. I will never again co-sign a loan, a lease, or a life. 6. My value is my character, not my checkbook. 7. I will not accept guilt as a currency for a transaction. 8. I will not set myself on fire to keep others warm. 9. A gift is given freely. Anything else is a contract. 10. I am the sole and final auditor of my own life. I read them every morning. It was my new constitution. My days, once a blur of client calls and market reports, took on a new rhythm. I woke up with the sun, not with my alarm. I would walk, a long, 2-mile loop through the quiet streets of Capitol Hill, a thermos of coffee in my hand. I bought a simple, linen-bound journal. Each morning, I wrote one page, not a to-do list, just thoughts, observations, the way the frost looked on the park grass, the relief of a project well done at work, the taste of the mint from my window box. It was a logbook of my own existence. I was no longer the supporting character in everyone else's drama. This was my story, my rebirth. My work noticed the change, too. The frantic, desperate energy I used to bring, the need to prove my worth by outworking everyone, was gone. In its place was a calm, focused efficiency. I was no longer running from a void. I was working from a place of stability. Sarah Chen, the head of compliance, called me into her office. "Heavenly," she said. "We have all seen your performance, not just this quarter, but how you handled that. External pressure. You were ironclad." "Thank you, Sarah. I just tried to follow protocol." "You did more than that," she said. "You were strategic and calm under fire, which is why I am offering you a new role. We are launching a firm-wide environmental, social, and governance initiative. It is a massive new project. I do not want an analyst who just sees the numbers. I want someone who sees the value behind the numbers. I want you to lead it." I was stunned. It was not just a promotion, it was an alignment. My entire career had been about maximizing returns. This was a chance to build something based on integrity, on the very principles I was trying to live by. I would be honored, I said. My life was, for the first time, in balance. The external noise had almost completely faded. My father, Martin, kept to his new, silent schedule. On the 1st of every month, I would receive an email notification. Incoming wire transfer. Martin Klein, $500,000. The memo line was always the same. Payment 2 of 60, payment 3 of 60. He never wrote another word. He did not ask for reconciliation. He did not beg for forgiveness. He just paid. It was the most respectable thing he had ever done. Lila had, as I expected, re-emerged. The restraining order barred her from mentioning me by name, but it did not stop her from pivoting. I checked her Instagram one last, clinical time. The angry black and white victim posts were gone. In their place was a new, pastel-colored aesthetic, soft-focus photos of her drinking tea, quotes about healing and surviving trauma. She had rebranded herself. She was no longer the abandoned victim. She was the empowered survivor of a toxic family system. Her new grift was healing, and I had no doubt she was finding a whole new audience to monetize. I blocked her account. Her narrative no longer mattered. And then, there was Evelyn. The silence from her had been absolute. The court order and the public humiliation had, it seemed, finally muzzled her, until the second week of December. An email appeared. It was not from a burner account. It was from her old familiar address. The subject line was, Christmas. My finger hovered over the delete button. Jonah had told me to forward him everything, but this was a direct appeal. I had to know. I clicked it. Heavenly, it began, the tone sickeningly sweet. This awful, awful silence has gone on long enough. It is Christmas. It is time for family. It is time for healing. Your father and I, and even Lila. We want to put this terrible misunderstanding behind us. We want to start fresh. We are inviting you to the house for Christmas Eve dinner, just like old times, to truly, finally, reconcile. It was the classic Evelyn performance, the appeal to tradition, the minimization of the catastrophe. This terrible misunderstanding. I knew, with the certainty of an analyst reading a bad prospectus, that the real terms were coming. I scrolled down. We can put it all behind us, she continued. Your father has been so low, and frankly, the financial damage to our reputation, to the family honor, has been severe. We are willing to forgive and forget. All we ask is that you come back to the family, in truth, and help us restore our good name. You are so successful. You can help us fix the financial mess this legal situation created. We can be whole again. I read it twice. She had learned nothing. She was not inviting me to reconcile. She was inviting me to pay for the privilege of her forgiveness. She was demanding I restore the family honor with money after she had been the one to set it on fire. It was the most audacious, delusional, and insulting thing I had ever read. I forwarded it to Jonah. She is in violation of the spirit, if not the letter, of the TRO. I wrote, This is not a social invitation. This is a solicitation. Jonah called me. You are not, under any circumstances, to reply to this. I know, I said. I am not. But Jonah, she is still trying. She still thinks she has leverage. She still thinks she can pull me back in. She is a narcissist, heavenly, he said. She will never, ever believe she was wrong. She is just rebaiting the hook. I know, I said again, my mind turning, the analyst side of me clicking into gear. But she just opened a door. She is offering a final reconciliation. She wants to put it all behind us, I think. I think I should accept. Jonah was silent. What did you just say? She wants a final meeting, I said. She wants to end this. So do I. But not on her terms. You always said that if I am going to end it, I should end it on my home turf. This is not your home turf. Heavenly, her house is the enemy's den. My home turf, I clarified, is the one I build. I will go, not to beg, not to negotiate. I am going to close this file, permanently. Jonah was quiet for a long moment. I could hear him processing the strategic angle. All right, he said, his voice shifting from protective lawyer to co-conspirator. If you are going to do this, you are not going in empty-handed. You are going in with a kill shot, a final, binding end to all of it. What do you have in mind? I asked. I already knew what my symbolic weapon would be. I went to my file cabinet and pulled out a clean manila envelope. Inside, I placed a copy of the €15,000 restaurant bill from Santorini. Beside it, I placed a high-resolution screenshot from my computer on Thanksgiving. It was my desktop, showing the email scheduled to be sent, with the digital clock in the corner reading 6:12 p.m. It was the receipt for my freedom. That is good, Jonah said, when I told him. That is the narrative. But you need leverage. You need something that makes them sign what we want them to sign. What do we want? A final agreement and mutual release, Jonah said. A document that terminates all obligations, forever, a legal gag order, binding them from ever speaking about you, your career, or your life, publicly or privately, for the rest of their lives. In exchange, you give them something. I am not giving them money, I said, my voice hard. No, Jonah said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. We are going to give them a reprieve. Heavenly. I have been monitoring their liabilities. Just in case. Your mother. She has not been paying her country club dues, the ones she values more than air. She has not paid in 6 months. The club, as per their policy, sold the outstanding debt to a third-party collection agency to get it off their books. I felt my heart beat. Once. How much? Just under $8,000. A pittance. The agency bought it for pennies on the dollar. They are notoriously aggressive. I want you to buy it. Jonah, I said. The plan forming. Cold and perfect. I already did, he replied. Last week, I formed a shell LLC. We are now, legally, your mother's creditor. The demand for payment in full, from us, is scheduled to hit her mailbox on December 26th. I closed my eyes. It was the most beautiful, ruthless, and perfect move I had ever heard of. She was inviting me to Christmas Eve dinner to demand I pay her. And I was going to walk in, holding the legal power to garnish her wages and destroy her last remaining shred of social standing. I will go, I said to Jonah. I will bring the envelope, and you will draft the final agreement. This is not a reconciliation. It is a closing. The house in Savannah, the one I had grown up in, the one I had paid the mortgage on for the last 3 years, was staged for a performance. My mother, Evelyn, had strung the porch with excessive, welcoming golden lights. The scent of pine and roasted meat, a calculated aroma of families, was thick in the air. She greeted me at the door with a hug that was pure theater, all brittle bones and expensive perfume. Heavenly darling, she cooed. I am so glad you came. We have all missed you terribly. Lila was there, lurking by the fireplace, her face a mask of strained neutrality. My father stood near the dining table, looking gray and diminished, avoiding my eyes, and as I had suspected, they were not alone. Aunt Marjorie and Uncle Paul were there, brought in as witnesses to my reconciliation. They were here to be the jury for Evelyn's final appeal. We sat. The dinner was a tense, quiet affair, all clinking silverware and forced, meaningless small talk from my aunt. Evelyn played the gracious, forgiving matriarch. Finally, over dessert, she set down her fork and folded her hands, her expression one of profound, practiced sorrow. Well, she began, her voice warm and inclusive, now that we are all here, as a family, it is time to let healing begin. She smiled at me, a smile that did not reach her cold, calculating eyes. This whole legal episode, it was a cry for help. We know that. Heavenly, we know you were lashing out from pressure, and we forgive you. Lila nodded, adding a solemn, we forgive you. I said nothing, I just watched. Evelyn continued, family is forever, darling, and now that we are all back together, it is time to clean up the unfortunate mess it created, the family honor. It is really the most important thing. So, will you not, in the spirit of Christmas, settle the outstanding balance? That dreadful Santorini bill, the club fees, just wipe the slate clean so we can all be whole again? She was asking me to pay her, after everything. She was asking me to finance my own forgiveness in front of an audience. I did not answer. Instead, I slowly reached into my briefcase. I pulled out the manila envelope. I slid it across the polished mahogany table until it stopped directly in front of her plate. What is this, dear? She asked, her smile tightening. That, I said, my voice clear and calm, cutting through the warm, yellow light. Is the truth? Open it. She looked at me, then at my father, then at Lila. Her hands, trembling slightly, opened the clasp. She slid out the first paper. It was the 15,000 euro bill from the Santorini restaurant. Her face paled. She slid out the second paper. It was the screenshot of my computer desktop, the clock clearly visible, 6:00 p.m., the scheduled email. She stared at it, her comprehension slow, then total. That moment, Evelyn, I said, my voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room, was not cruelty. It was not a cry for help. It was the precise, calculated moment I escaped a trap that you set, that Lila baited, and that I had been paying for with my own money my entire life. You bitch! Lila shrieked, her mask of neutrality cracking. You did it on purpose. You set us up. You were just jealous. You have always been jealous of me, jealous of our family. Aunt Marjorie gasped. Lila, language! Jealous? I replied, turning to Lila. Jealous of what? The lies? I do not think jealousy is the right word. I think documentation is better. I reached into my briefcase again. I pulled out a small, pocket-sized projector. I set it on the table. With a click, a bright, clear image appeared on the blank dining room wall. It was the iMessage thread, the one between Evelyn and Lila. The room was silent as the text appeared, larger than life, for everyone to read. Evelyn, we are booking Santorini. I will tell Heavenly we have the flu. She will buy it. Lila. Won't she be upset when she finds out? Evelyn. She will be fine. Heavenly only knows work. She does not even know how to take a vacation. I clicked to the next slide. Lila. What about the coupe? Evelyn. Heavenly is buried in that big deal. She will not even notice it is gone. Just be discreet. Aunt Marjorie made a small, choked sound. Evelyn, is this real? My mother was the color of ash. She was speechless. Yes, my father said, his voice a hoarse whisper. It is real. I knew about it. I knew about the flu lie. I let it happen. It is my fault, too. He looked at me, his eyes full of a shame so profound it was almost bottomless. He had, in front of everyone, confirmed the conspiracy. Evelyn's entire performance had just collapsed. She looked at me, her eyes no longer soft, but filled with a pure, black hatred. You have made your point, she hissed. You have had your little drama. What is this? What do you want? You are right, I said, turning off the projector. The drama is over. You invited me here to clean up the mess. I agree. I reached back into my briefcase. I pulled out a new set of documents. I placed them in front of my mother. This, I said, is the first twist? She read the cover sheet. This is from the Riverton Country Club, a debt collection. I do not understand. You have not paid your club dues in 6 months. Evelyn, I said simply. The club sold your outstanding $8,000 debt to a third-party collection agency. Last week, I bought that agency. As of this moment, I am your creditor. I legally own your debt, and I have the full legal right to file for wage garnishment, place liens on this house, and seize your assets for non-payment. The demand letter was scheduled to arrive on December 26th. Merry Christmas. Evelyn looked like she had been struck by lightning. I am, she stammered, looking at her sister. I am being... But I will not do that, I said, cutting her off. I am here, as you requested, to wipe the slate clean. I am willing to sign this document. Attachment A. It is a debt forgiveness agreement. I will forgive the entire $8,000 debt, in full, right here, right now. A flicker of hope, of victory, sparked in Evelyn's eyes. On one condition, I said. You, Lila, and my father all sign this second document, a final agreement and mutual release. It is a permanent, binding contract. It stipulates that you will never contact me again without my written consent. You will never defame me, speak of me, or reference me, publicly or privately, ever again. You will sign the gag order, and in return, I will cancel your debt. You get to keep your club. You get to keep your reputation. All you have to do is leave me alone. Forever. Lila almost smiled. She thought she was winning. That is it? She said. You just go away? We just have to sign a paper? That is it, I confirmed. Well, finally, Lila said, grabbing a pen. We are getting rid of you and you are paying for it. Should have done this years ago. She was about to sign. Ah, I said, putting my hand on the document. There is one more thing. For you, Lila. The second twist? I pointed to a specific paragraph. Section 3B, the Lila Clause. It stipulates that should you ever attempt to monetize my name, my likeness, or any part of this family story, through your healing brand, a tell-all, a social media post, anything, it will trigger an immediate financial penalty of $250,000 per violation. This document legally severs your life story from mine. You are free to be a survivor, Lila. You just are not allowed to be my survivor. Her face crumpled. This was not a victory. This was an annihilation. I was not just cutting her off. I was cutting off her content. My father reached for the pen. His hand was shaking, but his eyes were clear. He looked at me, a long, final look of acceptance. He signed his name first. His signature was a quiet act of liberation. He looked like a man who had just taken his first full breath in 30 years. Evelyn, seeing her leverage, her money, and her narrative all burned to the ground in the space of 10 minutes, did the only thing she had left. She put a hand to her forehead. I feel faint, she whispered, her eyes fluttering. I think I am having an attack. She began to slump sideways in her chair. A perfect, theatrical, moral faint. That will not be necessary. Mrs. Klein, a new voice said. A man in a sharp suit, a man my family had never seen before, stepped out from the hallway. Jonah had insisted. He was the representative from the collection agency, my LLC, here to witness the signing. I am here to confirm the legality of the debt, the man said, his voice flat and professional. And to witness the execution of this settlement, your faint, madam, will not invalidate the contract. Evelyn's eyes snapped open. Her attack vanished. Lila, in a final, desperate move, grabbed her phone. I am live streaming this. I am showing everyone what you are doing. She fumbled with the screen, but before she could hit the live button, Evelyn, my mother, lunged across the table and physically ripped the phone from her hand. You fool! Evelyn screamed, her voice no longer a cultured whisper but a raw, ugly shriek. Are you insane? You will ruin us. Turn that off. And there it was, the final alliance, broken, not by me, but by their own, competing self-interest. Lila stared at her mother, betrayed. Evelyn stared back, her face a mask of pure reptilian survival. I stood up. I placed my copy of the signed agreements back in my briefcase. The file was closed. I looked at them, all three, broken and staring at each other in the ruins of their own making. I did not freeze the family, I said, my voice quiet in the sudden, ringing silence. I just froze the bill. So, finally, all of you could see the truth. I walked to the front door. I did not run. I did not slam it. I pulled it closed, gently, and the click of the latch was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. Behind me, the voices had already started, but they were no longer directed at me. They were directed at each other. The whispers had, at last, changed their color. A few days later, on the 1st of the month, I received the final wire transfer from my father. It was for the last of his debt. The memo line was not a number. It was a single, short sentence. Starting over, no supplementary cards. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I am curious. Where in the world are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments, and share your thoughts on what you would have done in my position. Please, if this story resonated with you, subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it a huge boost by pressing that hype button so more people can hear it.